Yeah, leave the light on.
All right. Hello and good evening. Welcome to Bike Chat. My name is Jonah Di Pasquale. It's a pleasure to be with you this evening. You can find me on Facebook and Twitter and in a plethora of other social platforms. I'm here with my co-host Gunnar Soros, who is a craft beer a cycling aficionado, and it is great to have you, Gunnar. Glad that you could join us.
No
With
problem.
us this evening, another very special guest is David Ferret. David Ferret is a longtime friend of mine, an avid cyclist. His wears many hats, but the hat that he's wearing this evening is a bicycle designer or craftsman or craftsmith. I guess there's a number of different ways. David, is there an official term for that, by the way?
Not that I know of, just frame builder, designer, whatever works.
Gotcha. All right. So, in lieu of just a couple logistical things, folks, please, if you do us a favor and tell a bird, you can share this out on both Twitter and Facebook. Also, in regards to questions, it is /Q. You can set that into the message field and we will be sure to pin that up. Also, there is a seat open. So please, at any time, if you feel like jumping in, please go right ahead and do that. So let's jump right into it. So in the news, cycling in the news, and I know, David, this is probably something that might play into your hand as well. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but UCI made a major decision to allow disc brakes. I thought that it was a long time coming. I know a lot of people were pushing back on it. I was really pretty excited to see it, jump into cyclocross at first. And I know a lot of the aficionados, the old schoolers with the canties and whatnot, had given a lot of pushback. But I don't know about you guys, if you remember the advent of the mountain biking braking world, the cantilevers, and then everybody, got V brakes and thought V brakes were the greatest things ever. And then I can't tell you what a game changer it was the day that I actually rode a mountain bike with disc brakes, and I said, "Good Lord, this is what stopping power is actually all about." So, Gunnar, I mean, what do you think about that? I mean, any thoughts about how that's going to change things?
I think it's going to be a huge game changer. I think, I don't understand the pushback, especially from the riders, like the pros, against it. I mean, I can understand teams and sponsors and like neutral support being against it because, right now there's all sorts of standards and they can't even come up with a proper place of where to mount the calipers, whether on the chain stay or the seat stay, and then what size rotors you have and all that kind of stuff, and then the spacing on the rear wheel. It's all over the place right now. I mean, they're kind of settling in, but it's still kind of up in the air. But from a rider perspective,
Right.
I don't see why there's a pushback for it. I mean, even in cyclocross, I couldn't understand why would you be against it. It doesn't make sense to me. I think you get more stopping power. Yeah, maybe it takes a week or something to get used to that much power instantaneously. But once you get used to it, I mean, to me, it's like a no-brainer.
David, I'd be interested to get your feedback on that. Gunnar, David's very active in running events. Again, he is also a very credible and seasoned mechanic that works on pro bikes. So he's got a very big perspective on how he sees things. So, David, UCI and disc brakes, what's your take on that?
So for cross, no other way for me. I think they're the wave of the future. They think you can stop so much better. I think the pushback, and it's still a concern, is brake pad performance in mud. You can eat through a set of disc brake pads in a race, 2 races with disc brakes.
Right.
People use that as a why you shouldn't use it. Well, guess what? You were going through them on your cantilevers too. So
Right.
To me, that's not even an excuse. Weight, unless you're paying your mortgage riding a bike, weight's not an issue.
Right.
A lot of people tell me I'm wrong, but I only know a few who actually do pay their mortgage with a bike. So,
Seriously.
And when you talk about that too, especially in the pro peloton, even if you're getting paid to ride that bike, they're putting weights into bikes to make them UCI compliant.
Correct.
So,
What's interesting, there is some talk, and I don't know how public this is, but there's talk right now of eliminating the weight limit, the 14.9 pounds. They're talking about that, and it is an old, antiquated standard. They do need to get rid of it. That was back in the days when steel bikes were still being used and were being
Right.
underbuilt and
Right.
being made unsafe. Well, today, a 14.9 pound carbon bike is light. You can
Right.
do that with a cross bike with disc brakes. And
Right.
I've actually had this argument with high, if you will, high level amateur cyclists who disagree. But I can build you a bike today for under $6,000 that would be
Right.
at
Wow.
that weight limit. So,
Wow.
technology's improved. They need to get rid of the weight limit. Disc brakes
Sure.
are where it's coming from. Jonah, as you know, I spent the summer in California working for a major manufacturer
Right.
and had the opportunity to ride road disc.
Right.
And what a game changer. In
I bet.
upstate New York,
Yeah.
not so
Here
sure
especially.
not so sure it's a
Right.
issue in upstate New York, but coming down Mount Hamilton at 50, 60 miles an hour using two fingers to brake, game changer. That's where it is.
Absolutely. I agree with you there for sure.
The ability to modulate the brakes so much easier too.
It is. It's two fingers. I never once worried about, am I going to roll my tubular because I've overheated my rim?
Yes.
That was great. Having some sort of forearm strength left at the bottom of a 20-minute descent, that was nice. There were so many nice things that I can't even start to tell you. In the wet, they actually work. Some of these things, though, for cyclists in upstate New York on the road aren't issues. I mean, we don't have descents that are going to take you more than 7 or 8 minutes to get down.
Right.
So you can kind of muddle your way down it on your carbon rim bike with calipers, but or side pull brakes, if you will. But
Nice.
when you go into real descents, I think definitely disc brake technology is where it needs to go.
Absolutely, and that's a great point. And I was, for reference, by the way, I was citing an article. It's cyclingnews.com, and that's the industry. And I want to quote this. It says, while the industry hails the expansion of the equipment allowed in professional road cycling, some of the affected riders, Vincenzo Nibali, Alex Dowsett, Fabian Cancellara, and others, they've raised concerns about the transition to disc brakes and what it will mean for the dynamics of the peloton. Now, David, you just talked about weight and things like that. Are they just pulling this out of their ass? To your point about the dynamics of cyclocross. I mean, let's face it. I mean, we're not going to name names. I mean, there's some incredibly talented riders, both professionally and amateur. And I mean, I've seen people get their clocks cleaned on cantilever brake bikes versus disc brakes. I mean, I don't know where they're talking about this, affecting the dynamics. Also, I mean, let's be big boys and put on our big boy pants. We're pros. You know what I mean? It's like, well, that guy's striping on his race car is illegal, so we're gonna make a ruling for it. I mean, David, are they just reaching with that statement?
So it's kind of interesting. Maybe I'm seeing it differently than you. I was a relatively early adopter of disc brakes in cyclocross. Right. And my buddy Graham Marsh, you may or may not know Graham.
Yeah, I know Graham.
He forewarned me. Yes, big guy. He forewarned me. He said, you're going to go to disc, your first race, you will be hit from behind by another racer. And honestly, I didn't believe him. And I can tell you in my first race, I was hit from behind by a racer. Right. So there's going to be a learning curve that happens in the pro peloton too on how to use your brakes again.
Sure.
So what happens is you can carry so much more speed into a corner. and it doesn't take you very long of using it, these
Right.
brakes, to gain the confidence.
Sure.
The problem is, as a racer, you're following the guy in front of you, taking
Right.
cues from him.
Sure.
And if he's on a much better brake system than you and hits his brakes,
Right.
in fact, you almost hit me last week riding at West Bay.
I don't know what you're talking. I don't know what you're talking about. It was dark out.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe it was after craft beer blab on Tuesday nights. Was it Tuesday night?
That might have been Tuesday, but you know what I'm saying.
It's all your fault, Gunner.
Yeah,
Seriously.
That's the difference between disc brakes and cantilevers for
Yeah,
you and I.
definitely.
And just multiply that in a pro peloton at 50 miles an hour coming down a descent. There could be
Sure.
issues, but it's a learning curve. That's all.
Right. Well, that's the way I look at it too. It's a learning curve as far as yourself getting used to it. And these guys are riding, and I can see the concern of that because they are riding in such close proximity to each other all the time. But on the other hand, I mean, things happen anyway, and they take each other out other ways too. I mean, someone's just not paying attention, and they're going to ram right into you.
Right.
And I mean, you see it. You see it in the races all the time. They're yelling at each other, and hey, what the heck are you doing? And
Right.
all that because somebody's not paying attention, and they either take someone else out or they take out half the field. It's part of racing, and I think the sooner everybody converts over, the sooner that everyone has that same feel as far as braking power.
Right. Yeah.
But until that point, I don't know.
I think I think the reality is that I think David, that is a good point, and I even said it myself with the statement of switching over, from V brakes to disc brakes. I think to your point though, the apprehensiveness of a lot of sportifs and directors may be very well that case, and that if you do have some of the veteran riders out there, that's probably not an issue. But again, let's face it, some of the younger riders, I don't know, that might be an issue. Folks, we have Jürgen Benecke. Jürgen is in from the hangar. Jürgen, good to see you. You are a Bike Chat member at large. How are you, Jürgen? Good to see you, my friend.
Hi, everybody. Pretty good over here. I
Good.
was just listening to you guys, and it's very, very interesting to me because, I've been on disc brakes forever, and this is just a matter of time that this happened.
Yeah, agreed.
It's way overdue. It's way overdue.
Right.
I agree,
and I find it more disruptive when somebody hits their brakes and they have these carbon rims and that sound it makes.
Yeah, that's a great point. That is a great point.
They
Really
may
great
not
point.
be slowing down that much, but it sounds like they're like locking up.
Yeah.
So it's like a whole disruptive sound too. So I can't wait for that to be gone. So
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, no,
Well,
that's a great point. And as I said, David Ferret, Jürgen, he's our guest tonight. He's the mastermind behind Ferretti Cycles. David, you and Jürgen probably should take your conversations offline. Jürgen's a little farther ahead of you with bootstrapping his idea. He did some stuff with Kickstarter, so he might be a good person to talk to. Maybe he could save you a few lumps on the knock-in, but that's a whole nother conversation. So, anyway.
Yeah, I saw some pictures. I looked up the Twitter feed, and there was some welded frames, and that's what's happening, right?
Yeah, I do braze frames. Yep.
Yep. That's
I
what
try to
saw.
avoid welding, but
Got it.
Yeah.
So we were, again, folks, if you're just joining us, as I said, Jonah DiPasquale and Gunnar Soros with you, Bike Chat every Thursday evening at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So good to have you. Do us a favor, if you get a chance, share this out. Let your friends and followers know on both Twitter and Facebook. Also, if you have any questions, please feel free. It's /Q. Jump in. We'd love to entertain your questions. We are here with David Ferret. Check him out. It's Ferretti Cycles, FerrettiCycles.com. Of course, right now, our member at large, Jürgen Benecke of The Hangar. Check them out at thehangar.co if you're looking for fantastic kick-ass gift ideas. Very, very cool stuff, and I am actually very excited because we got some swag and stuff hopefully coming for a couple of shows. We'll be able to share that out. So our first segment of the show, we did talk about cycling in the news. I want to just go quickly into some just Bike Chat tech tips. I know that a lot of you folks out there are always looking for great advice on things in terms of what to do with your bike. Folks, I know that many of you, whether you're seasoned riders or not, there's always a good thing to do a quick pre-ride inspection. As I said, maybe not necessarily every single ride, but it is probably a good idea just to check the major components of the bike. Obviously, the headset. Take a look at the wheels, the cranks, the forks, the brakes. Make sure that everything works. Test the brakes a little bit. Gunnar, you got anything to add to that as far as the pre-ride inspection? Because again, I know that's really critical for all riders across the board.
Right. Well, I just want to say that it is important, and don't overlook it. I tend to overlook it myself a little too often, and sometimes I'll get done with a ride and I'll see something that really should have been caught before a ride. And the worst thing is to have something happen while you're out on a ride. I've never had anything major, but if you've ever broken a brake cable or shift cable out on a ride that could have been prevented because you see it fraying or something, that's probably one of the worst. If you lose your brakes while you're riding, you definitely don't want to be coming down that mountain pass and have a brake cable go out. So definitely important stuff. And it's simple and it takes a couple minutes to do. So definitely don't forget to do it.
So two of the biggest culprits, folks, the takeaways. I'm without question guilty as charged. Is the chain. Take a look at that chain. Make sure that the chain is properly lubricated. The chain clearly probably is fine as far as not being broken, but it always helps to make sure that chain is properly lubricated. The other one is air in the tires. I'm telling you, I don't know how many people I see riding down the street or the road with their kids and their back tire is like ready to, lose air. And what's the rule of thumb with, for example, your tires? I just say a little bit of air every time before you ride your bike. That's fine. But folks, that tech tip is really critical just because it saves, a lot of the pain in the ass of your bike just simply breaking down. So those are your quick tech tips. If you want the rest of the story, you can watch that on replay. One more tech tip, and we'll jump right into our main guest, is winter maintenance. Winter maintenance is huge. Some of the key things, obviously, also with the pre-bike inspection that we talked about. The other critical thing I just mentioned are your selection of tires. Whether you're riding a road bike, a mountain bike, or whatever, the same tires that work really well during the summer months are not going to work well during the winter months. The same thing with air pressure. You're not going to run your tires jacked up. Okay, that's not going to work. All right. That's the big thing. And then the other two things, or the other last thing, is your chain. I just mentioned your chain. In the winter, you're going to want to run more of like a wet type lube that generally is going to protect the chain from elements and things like that. And again, I think those are just a few of my winter maintenance housekeeping things. I don't know, Gunnar, how about yourself as far as other winter maintenance tips?
Same thing. You actually probably want to clean your bikes a little more often in the winter. I mean, to the point of maybe wiping down your frame, especially if you're riding on any roads and get salt and crud all over the place. That the road salt and sand is a major corrosive and it'll destroy your bike. So wipe it down, get that stuff off. If you can, find a place that you can just kind of gently hose it down. That's definitely worth it because you'll save yourself probably thousands of dollars if you're riding regularly in that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and that's huge too. As I said, the big thing too is a lot of folks riding their bikes in the winter. Some folks maybe don't necessarily have fixed gear bikes like I do. I've got a winter beater that I have fenders and things like that, so I'm not like losing sleep over the fact that I'm riding my bike in salt in upstate New York and Jurgen, I know in New Jersey. Yeah. You see those silent elements that are really working their way into the smaller crack nooks and crannies. The other thing though too is Jurgen, I'm sure you're probably familiar with this, is Gunnar, I don't know, maybe you can help me out. What is the name? There's a winterization. What is that? You'd spray it in the frame. Jurgen, what is the name of that? Help me out here. Freaking
do not know.
Frame saver.
Maybe just
JP Weagle, I think, was it?
Is there
Weagle's only frames? Yeah.
Frame
That's
saver.
only for steel frames. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah,
steel frames, right?
Yeah. Steel frames.
Yeah,
Chris Tilford.
they do rust out from the inside. You know, they
So-
look beautiful from the outside. On the inside, it's havoc.
It's having so David, you got I'm sure you got some of your winter tech tips, maintenance tips for cyclists.
Yeah, Gunnar hit a big one, which is, when you're working with the pro teams, you don't get the luxury of looking at someone and saying, wipe your bike down. But that's the biggest one, is just wipe your bike. You can eliminate so many issues by just cleaning, keeping your bike clean, which just means when you get home from your ride, even though you're cold, it takes 2 minutes to either spray it down with a hose and then dry it down with a towel, or just wipe it down, and you can eliminate so many problems.
Yeah.
Not sure if you followed my Facebook feed from tonight, but I blew up a derailleur tonight. Probably because I didn't keep it clean enough, but we won't talk about that.
Yeah. Well, see, those tips, they're common knowledge, you would think, and they're easy enough, but I know I fall victim to sometimes just neglecting things, and that's generally when things happen, when things go bad.
The equipment nowadays it works so well for so long that you do forget. You can run your bike, for like a year maybe without cleaning it.
Right.
I think I've done that.
A year?
Yeah, you have your commuters, your beater bikes, whatever. It's not like a special bike or anything. I mean, I don't think I've ever cleaned my commuter bike. I don't think so. It's just got this protective crust, where everything works underneath.
That's true too. Yeah, the grime kind of comes over, and it keeps it all protected.
Yeah, it keeps the lube inside. Exactly. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
It depends what kind of bike it is, right?
Yeah, a fine seasoned frying pan. That's for sure. I know, but listen, that is funny because folks, the irony is the four squares of the people that you're watching right now. I mean, we claim to call ourselves like cyclists and professionals, but I mean, you feel like a complete jackass when the most simplistic things, like David, with your derailleur, the last ride that still crippled my mountain bike, I blew up my rear free hub body, like David, like on the other side of town, and I'm walking home in freaking mountain bike shoes. Things like that are going to happen. I believe that the takeaway here from our tech tip is like Gunnar said, and Jürgen and David as well, is just take a few minutes and inspect your bike.
I think the best tech tip is bring money.
Money
or a flask. Or
bring
flask.
money, a phone, and have at least one friend you can call.
Right. Exactly. So, all right. Well, that was awesome. Those were our tech tips for Bike Chat. Again, if you just wanted to catch that on replay, you certainly can watch that at any time. Now, in this part of our show, we are going to move into our featured guest. Again, David Ferretti of Ferretti Cycles. It's ferretticycles.com. David, as I said, again, we are longtime friends.
I'm going to leave.
Okay, you're no problem.
All
right, he's out of here. Folks, David and I, longtime friends and colleagues. David also an avid cycling promoter as well. Again, David, welcome to Bike Chat, and audience.
Thank you.
Give him some props. Check him out. Check out Ferretti Cycles online, and let's listen to what he has to say. So tell us the Ferretti Cycle story.
Ferretti Cycle story. So, Jonah, I started riding and working on bikes back when I was, I don't even remember, 10 or 12 years old, and it became, shall we call it, an affliction. And worked at bike shops all through growing up and in college. And even once I started my professional career past college, stayed working in shops, and always had a burning desire to learn how to build frames, especially once I had become very proficient in the mechanical end of things. So several years ago, my better half sent me out to Portland to learn how to build frames, which is what I always really wanted to do. And so it just spawned from there. I went out there to learn for personal reasons and loved it so much that started producing frames, if you will.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah,
That's
it's
awesome.
a lot of fun. I learned out there. My background is mainly fillet braised, and I also do some lugged stuff as well. I've dabbled in TIG, and though other people will tell me that my TIG welds are pretty, I'm not willing to put them out there in the community yet. So
Sure. Nice. And again, it seems so it seems like it is, as a frame builder, you're kind of finding, sort of your niche or your sweet spot. We had a good friend of ours, Joe Graham from Graham Cycles, on many episodes. Again, you guys can check that out on replay. But David, for the audience out there, why a custom build over a stock bike? I know a lot of times the thing that I don't want to say most consumers always jump into it, like, oh, it's too much money, and I don't want to spend the money. And I mean, it may sound like the obvious question, but really, what is the difference?
And that's a great question, Jonah. And I just actually went through it with someone who I talked out of a custom. Crazy. I didn't want their money.
Wow,
Right.
But he was served by something totally off the shelf. So I was like, why would you spend double the money with me to build you a bike that you really want? What he really wanted was this early karate monkey. So I said to him, Steve, buy one. Why would I build you one? I mean, I'd love to. So the reason to do a custom is because you want something that you can't get off the shelf.
Sure.
Let's face it, as a custom builder, I can't compete with what Cannondale, Raleigh, Trek, any of them can do, just out of the power of numbers. They can produce so much more, so on and so forth. So the biggest reason is if you don't fit a stock bike, which you and I, as we were talking on our ride, I don't. I've got a long torso, short legs. Or if you have the exact long leg, short torso, you're a perfect candidate for a custom bike. The other people that I think are great candidates for custom bikes are people with very specific wants and needs. They're light and tall, so I can customize a frame that's going to ride great for them, or the exact opposite. Tourists, mountain bikers, obviously anything you want. Oh, you want to carry a rack and 4 water bottles? I can do that for you.
Nice.
So those are the big reasons. Is really, you buy a custom bike because a stock product just isn't going to serve your needs, or you have a lot of money and want the prestige of owning a custom bike.
Absolutely. Jurgen chimed in and said custom bikes are heirlooms and instant classic keepers.
That's true. That's very true.
Yeah, I mean, and Gunnar, what's your take on that?
Oh, I love custom bikes. I don't have any at the moment, but
we can change that.
Yeah,
seriously, right there. There's your guy right up there in that square right there.
Send in an order right away. No,
and he lives like, I know where to find him. He likes craft beer too.
Yeah.
my current bike, my current road bike is a steel frame. It's a Gunner, so. But it kind of follows some of the, the handcraftedness and all that, but it is off the shelf. I mean, it's literally just, it's built up. But I would love to have a custom bike, not for any specific reason other than something that is made specifically for me, kind of like tailored, like a tailored suit. You would have one, it would probably be something that you hold on to for a very long time. Maybe you don't ride it every day, but you would ride it a lot, and it would become kind of comfortable and part of you. But
no, I think that's a great point. And as I said, I've known many a friend and colleague that have Ben Serrata. Ben Serrata was right here from upstate New York. In fact, I sold and I sized Serrata bikes, custom bikes myself, and I can tell you right now, a good number of those bikes that I sold and to customers, they're still out on the road right now. And guess what? The customers are just as happy. And I think Gunnar, you nailed it, and about like the using the suit analogy, and I think David, you nailed it as well. I think that the other sort of ideal originally with Terry, for example, that was really what Georgiana's claim to fame was. And I know that we often, unfortunately, be great to have Katina here or another female voice in the house. If we have any ladies, please jump in. But that was the other thing too, is that for some particular female builds, I mean, they weren't able to find a bike that worked. Now again, folks, just to kind of reference, if you're not familiar with Terry bicycles, I mean, their original designs, David and Gunnar, you guys can help me out. They I want to say it was the Symmetry, and the Symmetry had, oh gosh, was it like a 650? It was like a smaller front wheel.
No, I think it was a 24x1 was the original.
Yeah, so it was a very unique build. But just getting back to the point of the question, it sounds like not only the obvious is it's made tailor made to fit that individual, but therefore I feel like if it is something that is tailor made to you, therefore the experience is going to be much more enjoyable. Obviously, you're going to ride more, and I get that. So no, that's a great point for the audience out there, and David, thank you for that clarification. Now, in regards to builds, Ferretti Cycles also does a number of different bikes. Now, David, I know I don't want the audience perception out there to think that you just build fat bikes, because I know that you've built a number of other bikes, and I also preface Joe Graham, because that was the exact same conversation. Joe Graham doesn't necessarily build fat bikes. So I mean, I'm sure you have a favorite, but give us sort of the sweet spot for where you are, for what you like to build. I mean, you talked about materials, but what any particular builds that you do like, any particular builds that you stay away from, or what's the...
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. Jonah, the primary thing that I'm building is bikes that go on dirt. So cyclocross, mountain, and fat bikes,
Right.
Which I'll just preface, I've been yelled at for this before. I consider a fat bike a mountain bike. So
Yeah.
just if I refer to a mountain bike, I'm including fat bikes in on that. I've done some road bikes, but the road market's an interesting thing, very driven by the racers, and they want carbon right now, which in June I'm going to Dave Bohemian's Class 4 carbon composite
Nice.
to learn that as well.
Awesome.
Only because I want to be able to offer the product.
That's awesome.
That said, I'm building a really bang it up steel road bike right now, which is going to ride like a dream. So I hate to say I have one thing that I really focus on. I would say it's more working with you as an individual, making sure we have a bike that, number one, fits. Number two, I have the right tubing for your height, weight, build,
Right.
and what you want to do with the bike, lifestyle,
Nice.
if you will. So
Nice. That's awesome. That's awesome. Very cool. So, again, it sounds like, pretty much almost anything that's dirt or gravel related, you're certainly willing to entertain that. But again, I think that for the most part, if somebody wanted just even a road bike per se, I guess my point is it wouldn't necessarily be like that's not something that you could do. You certainly would entertain that.
Oh, absolutely. I love doing bikes. It's just the market isn't big for it right now. If people are buying custom road bikes, they're looking at like the IndyFab Corvid,
Right.
which is a custom
Right.
carbon fiber,
Beautiful.
or Kelfies.
Right. Nice.
They're
Yeah.
looking at those carbon custom bikes. And as of today, I don't offer that. But hey,
Yeah.
if you want a really awesome steel road bike, I
Right.
can help you out with
Steel's
that.
real. Steel's real, baby. That's awesome.
Love
I
it.
That's
like
awesome.
it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you, and I think that's that's great. That's great to do that. So, you've done a fair amount of traveling. I know obviously just through the beauty of social media, I've been able to kind of keep track of some of the places that you've ridden and things like that. Do you have any particular favorite places that you like to ride when you're sort of like off the clock basically, or?
Yeah, geez, that's a great question. So, Michelle and I both love Tennessee and have threatened to move there many, 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 many times. Kind of the Knoxville, Chattanooga, the whole eastern border of it. Beautiful
Right.
area, mountains. That's gorgeous. Love riding there.
Nice.
Where else? I enjoyed my time in California. As
Yeah,
you know, I
nice. I saw that.
spent the whole summer there working for that big company, and
Nice.
I was happy to come home. It was a unique riding experience. How many times can you say, "Hey, I just climbed for an hour and 10 minutes straight"?
Right.
So
That's awesome.
that was really cool. But honestly, I can't say I've ever ridden somewhere where I was like, "Oh, this sucks. I don't want to be here."
Right.
You know, that's
No,
the
that's
Yeah.
very
great thing
true.
about riding, right?
Yeah.
Oh man, absolutely. Anytime you're not in your own neighborhood, you're having a good time. I don't know, man. Gunnar, how about you? I don't think I've asked you this. What's your favorite place? Your favorite place to ride?
Well, Minnesota's not too bad. We got a lot of gravel roads and a lot of country roads, so they're nice. I kind of grew up or got into cycling in Hawaii on Oahu,
Nice,
and I do
beautiful.
miss
There you
the
go.
hills there. Yeah, and the weather. I mean,
Yeah, right. The weather. I
uh,
agree with that.
that
Seriously.
definitely has
Uh,
its benefits, but it's hard to say. Like what David was just saying, anytime you're out on the bike, it's hard to say that you have a bad ride. I mean, it could be the worst road in the world, full of potholes and stuff.
right.
And if you're rolling along, you're still having a good time.
Oh,
So,
absolutely, absolutely. And I have to agree with you. And it's like that adage, even like the fishermen always use that. Like a bad day of fishing is usually better
right.
than a good day of work or whatever. And I think riding's the same thing. And I think a good buddy of mine, he always said it best. He's like, no matter what kind of mood that you're in, usually after the first 5 minutes when you're on the bike, you pretty much like forget about like, all of it. You're like, whether it was a
Right.
crappy day or somebody cut you off or something bothering you. And I do think that is clearly one of the unique things that brings cyclists of all ages and demographics together. I mean, because if you're riding a bike, you're riding a bike, and I've ridden with folks that I could barely understand, a single thing that they were saying, but the commonality was, hey, we ride bikes.
On bike.
Right.
So, and I think that is really one of, I think that's one of the other neat things about David, that what you're doing is that, your vision, your product, I mean, it scales itself across, a multitude of cultures where, they don't, they don't necessarily have to be able to say bike in the English language, but they know what it is, you know what I mean? Which is kind of cool. So
Right.
that definitely makes it fun. Welcome, David Tripp. Thanks for tuning in to Bike Chat. Just a quick little PR thing. Again, welcome to Bike Chat. Jonah DiPasquale with you and co-host Gunnar Soros. We are here with our guest, David Ferret of Ferretti Cycles. Check them out at ferretticycles.com. They're also on, I believe it is, Instagram and Twitter as well, featuring
And Facebook.
in Facebook, featuring a medley of off-road, let's say gravel, dirt specific bikes, but they will build something if you're looking to do something other. Let's see. It is about quarter of. We're getting close to the top of the hour, and I actually didn't say where my favorite place was to ride.
Yes.
It's technically a tie. The first place where I like to ride, where I say is one of my favorite places to ride, was out west. It was in the demo. It was called the Demo Forest, and that was probably the closest thing I can say to riding in a lush, exotic rainforest jungle. It's on the It's over near Santa Cruz, if I remember correctly. Is that where the Demo Forest is, David?
Yeah, it butts up to Santa Cruz. So yeah, it's incredible. I rode it this summer. I
So
know what you're
yeah,
talking
so
about.
so I had no idea what I was getting into, and I ended up riding, and it was amazing. And I think, Gunnar, to your point about going different places to ride your bike, it's truly part of that experience. And then I think my second favorite place to ride is Park City. I've been to Park City a couple times, and it's just amazing the mountain culture that they have and the dedication to building trails. I mean, it's just miles and miles and miles of trails. It's unbelievable. But that's the beauty of going different places. You can appreciate it, and of course, when you come back home, you still got the little fun little areas that we have here in upstate New York and Rochester, Minnesota to keep yourself busy. So, all right, that pretty much wraps it up, folks. I'm going to take us off air here in just a few minutes. But Gunnar, before we go offline, anything in particular you want to add in closing?
Not really. I just think it's great talking to people that are in the industry and doing things, and I think it's great to have frame builders on here. Get inside the mind a little bit and see what's ticking in there. And your bikes look awesome, David.
Thank you.
Would love to be able to afford one. Maybe in a little bit, I'll hit you up and get you to build me something.
That would be
he likes beer. If you smuggled him some of that Surly beer, David, you got to try some of the Surly beer that he
Nice. Yeah.
that he sent me a care package. Dude, it's money. We can't get the stuff here. It is really good. Yeah, exactly.
Well, and what we could do for him, a six fatty would be perfect, and we could exchange for beer. Yeah.
Nice.
Ooh, there
we go.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
All right.
Work out a deal.
Absolutely. Well, folks, we are going to go off the air. Thanks for tuning in to Bike Chat every Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Jonah DiPasquale and Gunnar Soros with you. Again, if you're watching this replay, thank you so much. Please give us a follow both on Twitter as well. We would greatly appreciate that. And also FerrettiCycles.com. Check them out if you're looking to find out more. You can give David a shout out as well. He's right there. It's at David Ferret. That happens to be his personal Twitter account. Otherwise, folks, thanks for tuning in.